What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Against All Odds podcast. Today I have Andrew MacRae. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
All right, so Andrew, tell me your full name, your position, your age, and place of birth.
So my full name is actually Andrew Ian Seamus MacRae. 28 years old, goalkeeper. I was born in Kentfield, Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia. Fun fact, Mimi thought that Nova Scotia was in Russia the first time she heard it. All right, let's roll the intro, and then we'll get started. All right, okay, so with these, I literally just have you just go through your entire career. So let's just start. You were born in Nova Scotia.
Yep.
Just a wee lad up in Nova Scotia. Freezing. When did you start playing soccer?
I started about 3 or 4 years old, like in the Timbits program.
What's that? The Timbits?
Yeah, so up there they call it the Timbits program. It's basically for like kids 3 to 6. It can go. It's like a free program for younger children. It's basically just babysitting. It's basically all it is.
And were you always a goalkeeper?
I started playing in goal probably around U10.
Okay.
Yeah, playing out was never really my thing when I was younger.
So you were playing just recreational soccer from 3 to 6, right? Is that
Yeah, I didn't start playing high performance until about under 12.
Okay.
To be honest, like when I was younger, my dad didn't actually think I was going to be any good. Like I was always the kid that was, running around, not really doing much.
You were picking flowers in the outfit?
Basically, I was a flower picker, yeah.
Did you play any other sports?
I used to play tennis, actually.
Tennis?
Yeah.
I did not expect that. I was expecting hockey, honestly.
No, I can't skate.
Really?
Yeah.
You're from Canada, you can't skate?
I know. My two best friends back home are both hockey players.
Uh-huh.
And if I even put on a pair of skates, they start laughing. My ankles break.
Yeah, I don't skate either. That's what they wanted me to do when I visited Ottawa. They're like, oh, we can go down to the canal and skate. And I was like, I don't want to, I'm going to twist an ankle.
Yeah, I tried that once when I was in Ottawa, and it ended very badly. Yeah.
All right, so you were playing, and were you playing tennis at this age too?
I was playing tennis, 10, 12 years old, I was playing tennis.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of got to the point where I needed to decide if I was going to commit fully to playing football or if I was going to just play tennis, and I chose football. So
What age did you quit?
probably when I was about 14, I stopped playing tennis.
14, okay.
Yeah.
So you started playing, do you call it high performance? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, so that's what they call it in Canada. If it's not recreational, they call it high performance. It's not really high performance.
Is it year round?
Kind of. They don't really have programs that go January to January, or like a 10-month long season. They have an indoor season, which is just 7-a-side, and then they have an outdoor, which would start say May and go till middle of August. So
because it's in the winter you have to do indoor, huh?
Yeah.
And those big bubble domes, is that what you guys have?
Yeah, there's some bubble domes, and then there's a few full-size indoor pitches where I grew up, but majority of them are just smaller. They're just like 7-a-side field, like a quarter field.
Okay. How was at that level, did you travel all around Canada, or where'd you go?
No, so when I was growing up, and not until about 14, you start to travel just your province. So like I would play other clubs within Nova Scotia, and then basically from 13, 14 to U17, they have what they call provincial programs. So if you play for your province, then you would travel across Canada. And it's just like a separate kind of tournament that you would go for, say, a week.
Okay.
And each province would play against each other. And
we call that like regionals.
Yeah.
Or like ODP, I guess, even in America.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you were doing that. Were you on like the provincial teams?
I was on there for 2 years. I was always in the, kind of like the bigger selection group. But when it came down to, selecting the final 18, I was in there for 2 years, and then U16 I was actually cut.
Okay.
It was a couple weeks before we were about to go to the national championship, and the coach actually cut me and decided to take a field player as a backup goalkeeper.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did he say that? Like, he just wanted an extra field player, and he.
Apparently, he just didn't rate me.
Wow. And then, so that was at 16, and then did you ever get back on the provincial team?
No, I never played again for my province.
Damn.
Yeah.
All right, so you're playing youth career. How would you describe your youth career then? Would you say like successful, decent? Like, were you underrated, overrated? Like,
I would say it was at the club level. I did well, but when it came to the provincial level, like what Canada would consider the highest level, I would say I was underrated. The coaches didn't really see much in me.
Were you doing any like extra training at all? Like,
yeah, I would train nonstop, like every day. I would be, my dad would coach my club team, so he coached me all the way up. And then I'd either be hassling him for extra training or hassling any goalkeeper coaches for extra training, just trying to get better because I was being told, you're not really good enough.
Yeah.
So I was always trying to do more and more and more, and it's frustrating as a kid, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you have an outfield player taking over you.
Yeah.
So it's.
Yeah, I bet. Like, that's like the most insulting thing. Like, no, I'd rather have this guy who doesn't even play goalkeeper be the backup.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting too to talk to like different people. Like, you talk to Moses in his youth career. Dude, his youth career, he was just top team in the nation of the U.S. every single year. And he literally just like, every year we're number 1, number 2. Worst year was number 3. Successful. And then other guys are like, no, I was cut from every single team. Cut. It's just like. Yeah. It's just interesting. All right, so you were doing that. You were a little underrated, especially after your cut from the provincial team at 16. What was like 17, 18, and then where'd you go from there?
So from after that, I actually moved up in age group and played with the higher age club-wise, sub U18. And then I finished that out, and I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do. I was considering going to this kind of like a prep school in England it was all based for goalkeepers, and you could go there and potentially get scouted.
Only goalkeepers, right?
Yeah.
That'd be a nutcase. Like, just crazy people in one location. So you're thinking about going over there in England?
Yeah, I was considering doing that, and then, for whatever reason, I just didn't end up happening. So I actually went to Acadia University, where my dad coaches. So I went there for a year and a half, basically, and I played 2 seasons with them. School wasn't really my thing. Grades weren't good. I didn't really go to classes, things like that.
Where was Arcadia?
Acadia.
Where is Arcadia?
Acadia.
Where is that?
It's in Nova Scotia.
It's okay.
So it's in a town called Wolfville, which is like 10 minutes from my hometown.
Okay. How many people are in your area?
My town, the last I looked, I think is like, I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's not many, like a few thousand.
Because when I saw it, because we have a mutual friend named Zoom, and he's playing in Halifax. Yeah. And I saw his he posted a little picture of what Halifax was, just from his window. Yeah. It was a train yard, snow, kind of that's what I expect when I think of Nova Scotia. There's obviously going to be better parts than just a train yard.
Halifax would be considered the nice part of Nova Scotia.
Really?
Yeah.
So what is it like? Do you have a lot of trees there? Is there I'm trying to picture it. I can't even think.
It's a lot of farmland. So Halifax would be considered a city. It's a small city. But outside of that, it's a lot of farmland. You see a lot of just open fields where you're growing stuff basically. You get a lot of country people.
Do you chop your own wood?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, so one of my best friends that I grew up with, he actually just moved back to Nova Scotia. He was teaching up north, so he owns his own place now. And so while I was home, I was actually living with him. He chops his own wood. He everything. He's gonna start growing his own vegetables, stuff like that. So this summer I actually learned how to chop wood for the first time.
Yeah, I just see you like carrying logs up, like chopping wood, getting water from the stream.
We would go down into he's got this like massive property, and we would go down and chop down trees, and then chop up the logs, and then have to carry them back up to the property, because that's how he like heats his house for the summer.
That's for the summer. You have to heat it in the summer.
Not the summer, the winter.
All right, that's all right. Okay, I got a better picture of it in my head now.
Yeah.
So you were there. You're at Arcadia. Is that Arcadia?
Arcadia.
Arcadia.
Yeah.
You were at Arcadia for a year and a half. You said school wasn't your thing though.
Yeah.
You're there. What was the next step after that? And why were you only there for half a year? You just finished out the second season. Is that why?
Yeah, basically, like I played first year, squeaked by on the grades. Second year, I just couldn't do it. I wasn't really interested in anything. Like I was in weird classes. Like looking back, like I went last minute my very first year, and I was in classes like music. Right? So, like, you know me, I'm not really that musical. So
musical.
We're in this small classroom. It's like maybe 12 people, and you know, like because. You know, my dad's the coach. People know who I am. I have to be in the classes, especially the small classes. Mm-hmm. And our music teacher, it was supposed to be just like a classical, like learn about older music, but she actually wanted to teach us how to sing, basically. So she would like try and get us to sing these notes, and it was just a terrible experience for me.
How did you like start and play all the games as a freshman and sophomore?
First year I didn't start. I played a couple games. Second year I played all the games.
Mm-hmm. But the school just
I just couldn't do it. It's not my thing. I just have no interest in sitting in the classroom.
How were your grades in high school?
They were okay, not great.
Just like enough to get into college.
Yeah, basically.
All right, and then where did you go after that?
So after that, I actually went on trial with Edmonton. So they brought me in.
And this is when they're in the NASL.
NASL, yeah. So they brought me into this like mini camp right before their preseason. Mm-hmm. Looked at me, basically said, you know, like, you're good enough, but not better than what we already have. Yeah. So, you know, that was that. I basically went back home, was just playing club. Now things turned around for me when my former goalkeeper coach that was in Ottawa, I met him. He came to my hometown and was doing his National A license. Mm-hmm. So Bruce Groblar, the former Liverpool goalkeeper, way back in the day. So he came, and so for that summer, I was basically working with him, training with him. Mm-hmm. And so after that, like, he's really the first one outside of my dad that kind of saw potential in me. Mm-hmm. So he was calling people in England, you know, all over North America to try and get me trials. And then when he was finally taken on to Ottawa, that's kind of when the door opened for me. So he brought me in 2015 at the midway point through the season. Mm-hmm. So I was there for a few months on trial with them, and then went back home, then went back in the fall on trial again. And they were actually having a turnover of the head coach. So Mark DeSantos was leaving, Paul Dalglish was coming in, and basically they called me in January, about 3 weeks before preseason starting, mm-hmm. and offered me a contract.
Of that 2016?
Yeah, season? 2016 season.
Okay. How long was it when you dropped out of school until you signed that? How many years was that?
It was about 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
Dang, so you were just training and working and doing individual stuff, and like, what club team was?
It's called Valley United.
Were they like the League One team, or like?
It would be comparable to like a League One in Ontario. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the level that it's at. But yeah, I was basically just training and hoping that something would open up.
And just living at home, just?
No, I was living in Wolfville with one of my friends that I actually played with. So I was just living with him and just like just hoping, just like
Dang.
not giving up the dream. So
Did you have like were you working on the side at all?
yeah, I actually worked at a supplement company. I was basically just selling protein and stuff like that.
So like, how many days were you working in that?
I would work that, 4 or 5 days a week for say 5 hours a day, and then I would just go train and play every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Okay, so how did you get the trial in Edmonton? Just through like mutual connection or an agent or what?
Basically, I was just going on every single team's website and emailing them my CV, just asking for a trial, and then they were just bringing players in. So I just lucked out with that.
So were you doing that all NASL, USL teams?
NASL, USL, England, Scotland, everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many teams do you think you completely contacted during that time?
Hundreds, man.
Yeah?
Hundreds, yeah.
And then how many do you think responded to you?
Maybe 4 or 5.
And then how many of the 4 or 5, did they all 4 or 5 of those say like, yeah, we're interested, like come in?
No,
or
it was only Edmonton that brought me in.
So you emailed hundreds of schools, hundreds of teams.
Yeah, I would stay up. It was constantly on my mind. Like I was constantly trying to figure out a way to get
Leave
picked
school.
up. Yeah, and so I would be up like 1 or 2 in the morning, like looking up teams, looking up like contacts, and just sending my CV out.
It's crazy is like listening to, because like it's funny because like I feel like this is something that every single player goes through, is like with a email, or they're at that like point where it's like, okay, it's just time to start digging, contacting people. And it's funny because it's like I do that obviously, but then like hearing Moses talk about that, or Anthony or whoever talking about that, it's just like it's very similar of like that low period of like I just don't have anything, and then just out here contacting. And I even say that in some videos, like you got to contact hundreds and hundreds of teams, because you get like a 1% return of like any emails, and like it's hard to take that much like rejection and just like, and when you wait after like a month, you email 50 teams and no teams get back to you, and you're like, I just gotta keep going.
Yeah, it is tough, especially like the States are a bit better, but Canada, up until the last couple of years, there's never been a clear pathway for players.
Yeah.
So now that there's a CPL, like younger players can kind of, have something to aspire to, right? But before, the best thing that I had looking forward to was, like the Premiership men's, which is still amateur, right? So it is tough because you don't really see a way to actually get there. You just have to email and basically hassle people to take a look.
Yeah. How long were you on trial with Edmonton?
Just a week.
Just a week, and that what you said there too, where you're like you're good enough, but you're not good enough to replace somebody. Yeah. Is like something too I've heard that you've obviously you heard, and then the other people, Moses and Anthony, I think too, and DJ and AJ as well. They're like everybody was like has heard that, oh yeah, you're good enough, but like why sign you and just have another guy that and that's the hardest part too, is like not only do you have to be at the level of being a pro, you have to be able to outperform someone who's already there.
Exactly.
And it's hard when you have a week to show and you're new to be like, oh yeah, I'm that much better. You have to have a crazy week, or you need the stars to align of like, it's like,
it's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. And then so you're there for a week in Edmonton. How did you feel once they said that? Like, were you just like, and then did you, any time where you're like, I'm going to go back to school? Or you're like, no, I'm just going to go?
I did go back for half a semester and just played again, just because I had no other options. I thought I might be interested in doing nutrition. So I tried that, but it just, again, like I would go to the classes and I just would have no interest in learning about how the protein goes into your body, like that. That just doesn't interest me, right? So it was tough because like it was getting to the point, I was like 22, 23, like basically a grown man, like chasing a dream, and it gets to the point where like some people, like some of your friends, even some family members are like, maybe you should reconsider. So that is tough. So you got to find a way to kind of push through that and just stay focused and keep doing the things you need to do in case you get that, that one chance to go try and impress somebody.
What did your parents think about you leaving school and not coming back? Were they okay with it?
Yeah, 100%.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then, do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, a younger brother and a sister.
And did they go through school and do everything?
No, my brother actually dropped out of high school. Just really did not like school.
Uh-huh.
He did his GED a couple years ago. Went to community college, got his landscaping degree. Now he's like one of the top landscapers in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about your sister?
She did a few years at Acadia as well, and now she's just kind of in between. She's probably going to go into become a paralegal.
Oh wow.
So she's looking into doing that in Ottawa, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard when like you're doing that, because I was like over in Germany at the time, and I was making like nothing, and just grinding by, like looking at my bank account and just doing nothing. It felt like I was doing a lot, but it was just like you don't have like people from the outside to see that you don't have anything going really. And like some people that are like, oh, he's going over to Germany to play, but other people are like, what are you doing? You know? But then I have like my brother and my sister. I think my sister was graduating at the time. I still hadn't I was dropped out of school, and then like my brother was like had like a 4.0 in college, and like they were obviously going to go and get like really good jobs, and I was like, hope this works out. It was hard with that.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, because unless you're playing in the big leagues, you're not making a ton of money.
Mm-mm.
And even in the USL, like unless you're one of the top players, you're not making big bucks.
Yeah.
So you gotta be doing this for a good reason. So it is tough mentally.
Yeah. How close did you get to quitting when you were at the like 2 to 3 years after Edmonton trial until when you started getting brought into Ottawa?
I don't think I ever really actually thought about quitting.
Yeah?
No, that's not really my mindset. If I'm gonna do something, I gotta be all in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think about what if this doesn't work, because if you go in with that mindset, then there is a chance that it might not work. But if you go in thinking this is gonna work out, I'm gonna do it, then chances are you could do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's true. So you're brought into Ottawa now. It's 2016 for January. How was the preseason of that? How was it finally to get into sign a contract and to be into a team?
It was good.
How was signing the first contract?
It was great.
Yeah.
It was tough because you sign the first contract and you finally done it, but then it doesn't stop there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I've signed my first contract. That's the first goal, right? Then I want to play, right? I want to move up. I want to be as good as I can be. So it's tough because I such a short turnaround between signing my contract and then mentally preparing to actually go into a preseason.
Yeah.
I knew a couple of the guys from being there, on trial the year before.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't really say I had any friends on the team. So I'm walking into a totally new environment, not really any friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it is very new, because you wouldn't see any of that kind of stuff where I'm from. So you just I didn't really know what to expect, especially with a new coach, new staff. I knew the goalkeeping coach, but a head coach runs things the way he wants to run things, right?
Yeah. That's funny that you said that too, about the short turnaround of celebrating and being excited, and then immediately thinking of okay, now it starts, because I even thought when it was oh, I'm gonna be so excited when I sign my first, I thought it was gonna be this big super exciting moment, but for me it was almost relief, finally, I got it, my name's on the paper. And then it was immediately just okay, well, I got training tomorrow. When I signed it, I was already going back to training. I was because I joined mid-season of Orange County, so it was I had training literally the next day with the guys. I'm okay now, and the coach was if you do well this week, we'll put you in the game. I was okay. And then I was immediately just thinking about that. It was just so quick. And Mimi was there when I signed it. She's are you not happy? I'm no, I am happy. I don't know. I'm kind of like thinking about the next game now.
Yeah.
Like it is funny about that. Was that 2016? Was Ramon there?
No, he came the year after.
Okay, I was gonna say 2017. Was Jeff there at that time?
Jeff was there. Yeah, Jeff. Anthony wasn't there that year. He was there when I was on trial.
Okay.
Zoom was there.
Uh-huh.
Zoom was actually on trial with the team when I was there. He stayed with me in Arizona for preseason.
It's crazy to see too about like because the soccer world's so small.
Yeah.
Like the intersections. Because I heard Anthony saying that like when he was being brought into like we heard a story about when he was being brought into Ottawa as he's like 17 at the time or something, and like getting brought in there, and he said how nervous he was and stuff. But it's funny to hear that you were there when he was there too, and Jeff was there. Yeah. Jeff will be on the podcast too and talk about how his story ended up where he ended up in Ottawa. And how was preseason? How many goalies were there?
There were 3 of us.
3 goalies.
So I was walking into a tough situation. There was
Mimi just walked in the door right now. It's not Mimi. All right, we'll keep going. Yeah.
So it was a tough situation because there was a goalkeeper named Romuald Pizer. He's a 37-year-old goalkeeper. He's played in the Bundesliga, played in Portugal. Like he's very experienced. So if he's fit, he's gonna play. Right? Like he's the established number 1. So I mean, it was good because I walked into a situation where I could learn from somebody who's played at like, the highest level. So that was good. It was frustrating at times because with 3 keepers, not all 3 are going to dress.
Yeah.
So there would be times where I wasn't dressing. I was in the stands watching games. So that was frustrating, but at the same time, it was my first year, brand new experience. Like I'm learning lots, and I'm still getting to do what I've wanted to do. So that was good. The next year was probably the tough year. So I was actually one of the first players re-signed, and like we had a good chat after the season. Expectations were good. What he was saying to me was good, and then come season, there's 3 of us again. And
did you still have the Bundesliga guy?
No, so he left. The other guy left, so it was 2 other new keepers. We got a guy named Callum Irving, and then who did we get? A kid from Montreal on loan, right? So Callum was kind of brought in, as the number 1, really. Very, very good with his feet. Our manager at the time really liked to play out the back. Like he basically thought he was coaching Barcelona. Right? So he loved to play out the back. So this guy was brought in to play, and it was one of those situations where he was the guy. Like no matter what, any mistakes, this guy would play. So, and like, don't get me wrong, he was a good goalkeeper and everything. But when you see that kind of situation, it is tough to mentally stay focused because you're doing well during training. And you're kind of thinking like, oh, like, how am I going to get a shot here? Right. So it was my second year that was actually really frustrating. It was just tough to stay focused and like really enjoy what I was doing.
Yeah, because that's like, it's tough too because especially I feel like there's positions where, like even in training that you kind of get, I don't want to say screwed, but like it's harder to show. Like I feel like with a goalkeeper too, especially someone with less experience than you have, like you said, a guy with the Bundesliga experience. It's like like what you said, if he's fit and ready to go, he's going to play. Yeah. So then you have to be ready and to train, but then at the same time, it's like you're probably training and being on the second team and you're playing against the first team, and then like the reps you get, a lot of times the coach is so focused because he's working on striker play, not even looking at the goalkeepers or something, and you're just like every training you have to come out here, work and try to improve and try to learn. And you're like sometimes you're like no matter what I do, no matter how good I play at this training, I probably still won't start. Like it's bad. All right, so you're at Ottawa for 2 years. And did you get into any games?
I did, yeah. I did get a few games, and then I would play with, like our reserve team. So I did get a few games, but, not really that many.
Yeah.
Not enough that's going to make an impact if somebody's wanted to sign you, basically.
Yeah. And at 2016, was that the year that you guys won it? Or is that like 2015? Like
2015 is the year, the NASL year, where they went to the final, lost to the Cosmos.
Okay.
And then they had the coaching change. 2016 is when Paul Dalglish was there, and basically, we finished like mid-table. And then the year after that, it was all over the place. Like there was a coaching change about August. So we had basically like an interim head coach and GM. So like that was a whole nother thing, having to deal with, somebody else coming in, new playing style, new ideas. So it was a difficult year for many reasons.
And that was 2017?
Yeah.
2017, yeah. So that one is funny because our paths, we probably were in the same. Did you go down to IMG in the beginning of that season?
2017?
Yeah, I was IMG. I remember I took a picture with Ramon down there with the guy. So we ate at the same dining commons. Like we probably passed each other right there, which is kind of funny. Okay, so then after the 2017 season with Ottawa, did they re-sign you?
No, so that was a whole new challenge. So
because you said there's new coaches, new GM, new interim coaches, probably a lot of change going on.
Yeah, so the guy that took over the head coach role, Julian de Guzman, was actually one of the guys that I became friends with. So my first year, we'd go eat together, go have coffees together, stuff like that. And then he pulled me into his office at the end of the season and said they were letting me go. So that was a whole another thing where your friend is basically saying we're not going to re-sign you.
Yeah.
So then I was just kind of blindsided by that, and was I didn't know where I was going to go after that. I had been speaking to my agent about different avenues I could go down. I had a few clubs interested in me, but nothing really solid panned out. But then I had two guys that I'd played with in Ottawa were from Northern Ireland, and they were playing for a club there. I just happened to be speaking to one of them, and they were asking, where I was going to be going this season and all this, and I said I didn't have a club yet. He said, well, would you fancy coming here? I was like, yeah, definitely. Right? So within, 2-3 weeks, I was signing a contract for a club in Northern Ireland. Basically had to get over there, and there were some struggles getting over there. My apartment wasn't ready yet, things like that. So there were a couple hiccups along the way, but once I got over there, it was great. Because I was in there, their keeper at the time was injured, so that's why they needed to bring me in. So I basically went into a situation where I was going to be playing all the time. So I basically finished out the season with them, playing week in, week out. Could even go play with the reserves sometimes if I wanted extra games. So it was good because it was, in a short period of time, I got a lot of games and a lot of experience.
It was like the exact opposite of Ottawa, where there's 3 fit ready keepers. You go into a situation, it's now if I'm fit and ready, I'll play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's good. And so you said 2 to 3 weeks after the 2017 season.
No, so I basically went from mid-November, whenever the season ended, to about mid-January, mid-January-ish, not knowing what I was going to do. And then that's when I spoke to my friend that played there.
Okay.
And then.
So did you sign in that January transfer? Is there a transfer window?
Yeah, well, kind of. So because I was out of contract before the transfer window opened, I was technically a free agent, so I didn't really need to sign within the window.
Okay. And you said you have a British passport, right?
Yeah. So it made it easy just getting over there. I could just work.
Because is your dad from there?
My dad's from Scotland. My mom's from England.
Wow.
Yeah.
Triple threat. Double.
Yeah.
That's sick. I was gonna say that it is easier to have like, I mean, if you have a passport like that, European or anything, it makes the visa process a lot easier.
It's way easier.
Yeah. And so how was the transition from like, because a lot of people ask that about like the transition from you're playing North American soccer your whole life, and then you go over there. Did you find any differences? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Or
I loved it over there, but it is very different. Like, the North American game is more, I don't want to say more athletic, but it's more, it's just faster paced. Like, you see more natural athletes over here. Whereas over in Europe, like, you get a lot of guys that, you know, have the footballing brain, but you don't necessarily see them in the gym 6 days a week.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like there are guys over there that, you know, never lifted weight ever.
Yeah.
But they're sick players. Right? But it is different. Like you see some players over there would struggle coming over here just with the speed and, you know, the athleticism of some players here, but same goes with players here would struggle over there just because some players aren't necessarily thinking the same way.
Yeah. So they compensate by like a their tactical side because they're just more athletic. Like they can be out of position or mess up because they can run and get back.
Yeah, not have as good a touch just because they can make up for it just for. Yeah.
That's exactly what I noticed in Germany too. Like I'm looking at some of these guys like take off their shirt in the locker room. I'm like looking around like, what level is this? Like, are these guys like and they're smoking and like drinking and doing stuff. I'm like, what? Where am I? And then they're on the pitch and they're just like pop pop, like every touch is clean and they're sharp and they're like the ball's just ding 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 ding. Like wow, it's sick. So you said you went over there. You said the apartment took a little time to get ready. Did you have your own place?
So for the first.
And what city were you in?
I was in a town called Larne.
Larne.
Yeah.
Larne.
So basically my apartment's not ready. I'm put up in an Airbnb for the first month. Like that. Like I love Ireland, Northern Ireland, but like it is a crazy place. Like
you told me some stories and like I don't know how much you want to talk about it in the podcast. You can talk about it if you want to talk about it, but there's like it's like it seems like you said you felt safe and you said everything.
Yeah, like I felt safe, but like my first night, I get to the Airbnb, I'm speaking to the lady, like she's very, very nice, speaking to her boyfriend, and you know, she's telling me I'll basically have the place to myself, and I was like, okay, sweet. And then we're just talking, and eventually I asked her, so like, what is it you do? And she was like, well, you'll find out just because you're staying here, but please don't tell anybody, I'm actually a cop. And I was like, okay, like why can't I tell anybody? She's like, well, cops are usually like people try to kill cops in Northern Ireland. So I'm like okay, like what am I getting myself into, right? So then she's telling me these stories, and then she's like, yeah, every morning I wake up, I go look underneath my car to see if there's a bomb. So I'm like, okay, great, I'm gonna die in Northern Ireland. Right,
she's like, by the way, do you want to ride to the grocery store?
Right, so like stuff like that, like there would be crazy things like that happen, but like if you're just there on vacation, people are so nice. But like if you come in and you're living in their town, they want to know who you are, they want to know what you're doing, and basically your whole life, because they like things there just run differently. Yeah. And I mean it to an extent, it works for them, like they're you know, but it's just it's very different.
Yeah. How many people are in the town?
I'm really picking my brain with these numbers. I don't know off the top of my head. It's small town.
Small, like a couple thousand, or is it like 10,000?
Let's say between 5,000 and 10,000.
Okay, so yeah, pretty small. Yeah. So like people would know each other. Like,
yeah, everybody knows everybody.
Yeah. So like when you showed up in the town, people are like, "Who's this guy?" You probably fit in though with the Irish beard. And how's the team? Like, did you get along with the team? The guys cool? Everything?
It was great. Good? Like, the football and culture over there is very different. Just like the way guys interact with each other, the banter is different. But like I lucked out in this case because I'd played with two of the guys. So I was walking into a situation where, you know, everybody knows these two guys, and because I was cool with them, they were cool with me. So everybody was really inviting, and, you know, I'd go to lunch with the guys, they'd take me, show me around, things like that. So I never really, you know, I felt like I had to like try and get to know the guys, because they just made it easy for me.
Yeah, how much easier is it to have when you go on trial to know one or two of the guys?
Just way easier.
It's completely different dynamic, huh?
Yeah.
And because you go into trial and you don't know anybody, it's the worst. Like it's just
even if you sign for a club and you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
Like it's tough walking into a situation where like you have no friends on the team.
Mm-hmm. And everybody already knows each other. It's a lot of times you'll do that. And I mean, I got lucky in a couple places where it's like I went to St. Louis and there's like a completely new team, so everybody's getting there and trying to meet people. But I've also been in places where you go and everybody has their friend groups, and you're kind of like, hey, can I hang out with you guys?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's different. So so you went in January. Did you play, and how did the season go until the end of the season?
So the way it works over there, they call it a split. Mm-hmm. So mid-season, they take the table, they divide it in two, and you only play the teams that are in your half.
Oh.
So if you're, you know, let's say there's 20 teams, right? If you're in 11 through to 20, I think it is, then you would just play each other. Mm-hmm. And then the top half of the table just plays each other for the remainder of the season.
Okay.
So
I've never heard of a league like that.
Yeah, it's the same in Scotland as well.
Okay.
With the Premiership, they do the split as well, but they midway through the season they had a ownership takeover. Mm-hmm. So this guy called Kenny Bruce, he's the owner of Purple Bricks. It's this massive real estate company, and so he's from there. He took over the team, and he was basically handpicking players.
Get down, Gucci.
He was handpicking players to come in, and he basically wants a team in the top league in Northern Ireland. Mm-hmm. So from, you know, midway through the season till the end of the season, we did well. Mm-hmm. But from September until about December, they didn't have a good start. So we were in the bottom half of the split, mm-hmm. but finished at the top half of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And then after the season ended, did you stay there?
Mm-mm. No. So they, unfortunately, in Northern Ireland, like it's not. You get some players that get paid really good money. You get some players that, you know, might get 50 quid a week.
Yeah, that's what I was talking to somebody who was over. I think not in Northern Ireland, but just in Ireland, or it was either in Scotland, and they were saying that like their team was like that too. Like there's guys that were on a lot, like I think they were saying like 4,000 to 5,000 something a month, and literally just people on like 50 pounds, like nothing. And I'm like, it's just, I mean, that's a huge difference though.
Yeah. So the keeper that was injured had another year on his contract. He was on good money. Like he was in the Manchester United academy. Like he's a good goalkeeper. So they didn't have the money to basically re-sign me on a good salary. So I didn't end up staying. You know, like I did really like it. You know, if things had worked out, I probably would have stayed. But yeah, I didn't end up staying, so I went and did pre-season with a club in England.
Okay.
So I was there, and it was kind of the same kind of thing. They couldn't offer basically enough money to be able to live off of. Because it's not all about money, but you need to be able to at least buy your groceries, pay your rent, stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Well, how did you get the connection over to that team in England?
It was just through my agent. He knew somebody over there. He knew a club that was looking for a goalkeeper. So I went over, and there was one other guy that was on loan from a higher up team. So they didn't have to pay his salary. But the money they had to pay for my salary just wasn't enough, so I couldn't really do it. And I didn't have any other options, so I went home from basically September until December, and I was just training, waiting for something to open up.
From September through December?
Yeah.
Like home to Nova Scotia?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Dang. And so were you working at all there, or did you just literally just were just training?
Training basically the whole time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how was at that time? How was your like mentality at that time? Were you feeling like, oh, this is gonna like I might quit? Were you feeling pumped because now you wanted to go back over there, or like what was going through your head?
I wasn't really sure. I was waiting to see, like, I was just waiting for something to open up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I knew if I waited long enough, something would open up. But it was just, like, again, I had to, like, on top of my agent reaching out to people, I would have to reach out to people, just, send my CV and video off the clubs. And then I lucked out. The goalkeeper coach, Bruce, who was at Ottawa, called me one day and basically said, I've just been talking to a guy who has a lot of connections. He wants you to send over your CV, your video, anything that you can. So I sent that over to him, and a lower league club was looking for a goalkeeper right away.
Okay.
And basically it was an opportunity for me to go over, get some games, play, just at least, keep ticking over until something bigger came along.
Yeah.
So I left, they called me and I had to book a flight basically within a week and go over to England. So I left in December and was over there until the 20th of January and then flew here.
Okay. Wow.
So I basically, it was a tough one because I spent Christmas in a hotel room, and New Year's in a hotel room on my own. Yeah.
Did you just by yourself do everything?
Yeah. It was tough. It was different. Like my first Christmas away from family.
Yeah.
So it was very, very different.
That's that's one thing. Like, even because it's hard because I talk about this even with like social media too. Like he'll show like people will be like, oh yeah, he's going over and playing over. In Ireland, he's over in in England, and then it's like from the outside perspective, it's like, oh yeah, that's sick, like that's so sick.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of times where you're like lonely, or like you're just like, this isn't exactly what I thought it was gonna be like. A lot of the time.
Yeah.
But it's worth. I feel like it's always worth. Obviously, it's worth it, or else we would have like quit.
Yeah, it's worth it, but football is a very lonely sport.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of time, like unless you have a girlfriend or a wife or friends on the team, like a lot of time you're just sitting in your apartment on your own doing nothing.
Doing that, just waiting for the next training.
Yeah,
and you can't do that much activity because you're sore and tired. You have to. Yeah. There's a lot of a lot of just doing nothing.
Yeah.
So you went over. You were this was this December, January. You were over there.
Yeah.
Did you, when you got the call about this, were you have any hesitation about coming over here? Did you think what was like you're going through your head at that time
about coming to Tulsa?
Yeah, were you like, I don't know, like maybe things are gonna work out over here in England? Were you kind of like
I didn't really think about it too much.
You're just not a thinker, huh?
No.
It's good, honestly. I think that's how you do better.
Normally, like I'll have a pretty good feeling. Like I'll know right away if I want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Like I spoke to my family back home, told them the offer. I spoke to my dad about what he thought my best options were.
Mm-hmm.
Like we both kind of agreed. Like coming over here, like it's, the setup here. It's a stable contract.
Yeah.
Things like that, and it just sounded like everything. Speaking when I was speaking to Godwin, like everything he was telling me that the gaffer was saying, like it sounded like a good idea to come here.
Yeah, yeah. Because the one thing about like the USL, it's like it's professional. Like it looks, it's a very professional league. Like sometimes it definitely has its downsides and things that it has its faults, but like the filming of the games and like the treatment of the players, like everything is very, very good. But yeah, so then you flew from, you said England, right? You flew from England over to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
How was that flight? Did you sign before you left, or did you have to come here on trial? Because
No,
you
so
signed
I-
before, right?
Yeah, I signed before. So I got the offer on a Thursday night,
Mm-hmm.
signed it on Friday night, and left Monday morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quick turnaround. Yeah.
Very.
And then that's another thing too. People will be like, what's your plans like going forward? Like 2-3 year plans, and I'm like, I don't plan because like
Yeah.
stuff can like you think probably in your head a week before that you're like I'm gonna be over in England. I'm gonna probably work my way up, do lower leagues, do whatever, and then all of a sudden within one phone call, your now plans completely shift.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's always like, yeah, it's good to have goals, but you shouldn't have like plans because like the plans like
Yeah.
it's just
It's
gonna-
tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
So then you flew over here. What was your first impression of Tulsa, Oklahoma, the team, everything? You met me.
I like it. Like, in terms of the team and everything, like, it's a really good setup. Like, there's a clear plan on what we want to do and how we want to do it. The training facilities are good. The stadium's nice. It's a bit cold right now, but
Today woke up and it was 14 degrees outside.
but like this is a nice day in Canada.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can't complain much from Nova Scotia. I'm gonna be really really excited to see how you do in the summer.
I'm gonna die.
Because it sounds like you've never lived anywhere that's gotten like I know it gets hot and humid over in Canada even in the summer, but like does it get to the 100 degrees, 110 degrees in humidity? Yeah, it's gonna be it's hot and humid here.
I need like SPF 100.
That'll be good. And then so how's training going? And how's the body feeling? How's everything going?
Body's all right now. Like there was a couple hiccups along the way, like dislocating my rib.
Yeah, because that was like the first weekend you dislocated your rib, right?
Yeah, first week. So it took like 2-3 days to get in to see a chiro, and so my back was all seized up. But
Andrew would talk to me if you're watching this video on YouTube. He would literally be like, "Hey, Andrew." Like, that's how you would turn.
So that was tough, but I mean, training's been good. Like it's, the games have been good. I mean, I think, so far, I think everybody's ready to go on the weekend.
Yeah, should be really good. And then so now I'm going to ask you just some questions, just like I have lined up that I ask a lot of people. What was the absolute lowest period of your entire career? I know you said that even when you didn't have a contract for 2 years after you dropped out of Acadia, you said that you weren't even like thinking about quitting. But was there any moment that you're like, this is actually probably the moment where I might quit? Like, do you have any low period like that?
I've got like low periods where I was frustrated, but I never thought I was going to quit. Like I'm too stubborn for that.
I think that's crazy, because I feel like I've had a lot of times where I'm like, man, I don't know, like this might be it.
No, like I don't know. I just can't think like that. Like even my brother, when I was considering going over to England, he was like, well, what if it doesn't work? And I'm like, well, what if it does?
Yeah.
Like I can't think like that.
Would you say you're an optimist then, or do you think you're just
with certain things, like things that I want to do, and I think I can do, then yeah. Like I'm realistic with it, but like if I think I can do something, then like I'm gonna do it.
And then what is the absolute best time of your career where you're like, everything that I've went through is worth it because of this?
Probably signing that first contract.
The first one, yeah. That's cool. And then if you could go back to yourself at between 15 and 18 years old, do you have any piece of advice that you would tell young Andrew?
Appropriate advice.
He has appropriate advice.
Just not to listen to anybody. Like like that moment where that coach cut me and took a field player over me. Like I probably would have just flipped him off.
Good advice. Good advice. Hear that, kids?
Like looking back anyway, right?
Yeah.
Like, cause like I just find when you're coaching kids, you can't just look at like how they are now. You have to like see the big picture.
Yeah.
So like if I would like that's probably what I would tell myself.
Mm-hmm.
Not to flip them off, but like just think like big picture, right?
Because I feel like too as a kid it's hard. Because that's on that piece of advice is exactly what I would tell myself. I'd be like, don't listen to the critics, like people that tell you to not, like, oh no, I don't think you can do this. Because like as a kid or even from like those years, you get somebody who has like authority over you that's gone through the pro ranks or even high level soccer tell you no, it's not. You're not gonna be able to do it.
Yeah.
It's hard to be like have the belief that you can. Because like I've had coaches, high school coach, club coach, like when I would be like even something simple like, oh yeah, I want to play Division I college soccer. They literally just straight up. No, it's not. You won't be able to. Like, you're not at the level. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I thought I would. And then it just kills you. Like, it kills you.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind, too. It's like, obviously, you can tell some people. Like, I don't even know about some people, but, like, there's a clear line of, like, good players and bad players and all that stuff. But, like, to tell someone who might be at that board, because I did go end up and play D1 soccer, you know, but it's like, to tell someone who's at that border just so distinctly like, oh no, it's not going to work out. When you can't predict the future, it's kind of crazy for coaches, and so many coaches do that. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, no, it is like I find a lot of coaches are just worrying about that season. Like, you know, if somebody's coaching a club team, they're just worrying about how the players are in that moment and how they're going to be successful that year. But as a coach coaching kids, you got to be thinking, you know, yeah, I want to win now, but how can I help this kid get to where he wants to get to or could get to?
Because I mean, even who cares what your record is when you're 15 years old, you know, or 16?
Nobody remembers that.
I literally have no idea how many games we lost. I remember winning some games, but like, it's they focus so much on winning and being successful as a team when it's like you should be focused more on other things like developing the guys for the long term. You know, it's crazy. There's a lot you could talk about with that. Yeah. But yeah, so is there anything else that you want to say? Just ending notes to the podcast. Anybody listening?
I don't think so right now, no.
All right, good. All right, well, this is Andrew MacRae. All his social media will be in the description. You'll have the little pop thing that will have your Instagram. Yeah. Any last words? I'm just going to kill you.
Any luck on getting the blue ticket?
Oh God! Wow, you're gonna roast me? Yeah. Andrew's got the blue check mark on Instagram.
Are you serious?
It's from Ottawa Fury, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got it, but yeah.
Yeah, of course you got it.
He earned it.
He earned it. That's sick though. Hopefully one day I'll get it.
Does Anthony have his yet?
Anthony? No.
Okay.
Alright guys, this is the Against All Odds podcast with Andrew. Yeah, I guess that's it. See you guys in the next one.